This got dropped the other day. I didn't get a chance to look at it because I had the Marvel Rivals tournament and then I went to PAX, so I've been kind of gone the last few days. But this dropped, Director's Take, Stadium by the Numbers. Hi everyone. I had a great time last week answering your questions on Emo Extreme and hearing your feedback about Stadium. Oh yeah, I gotta watch that interview too. Today we're pulling back the curtain on some important and interesting Stadium statistics. Game balance is something that's always at the forefront of our minds. Heroes, items, and powers have to be regularly be tuned up or dialed back to create a more even playing field for everyone. Prior to launch, we're always testing and ideating internally, but there is one very important aspect to the mix that we can't test for. You. Player data is an invaluable tool we use to see what's working, what isn't, and what could use a little more attention. To better show you how that process happens. Jesus Christ, I don't know why I just lost the ability to speak. Our data analyst, Ben Totman, is here to deep dive into how the team uses data on builds to influence balance changes. Hello. Ben the analyst here to chat about builds. One of the trickier but very fun things we get to think about with Stadium In our Stadium Reddit AMA, I went deeper about how we discover builds in the first place. But in short, it's useful to think about builds as a combination of powers and items that are distinct enough from one another to alter how you play a specific hero. Thinking of builds allows us to consider whether an individual power or item, or a combination of many of them, is the engine behind a player's success in a match of Stadium. So before they could look at it like, hey, does Sojourn have a 60% win rate? Yes. Okay. So one of the things in Sojourn's kit is probably enabling that a ton, right? And then they could look at that. With Stadium though, like let's say Juno has a high win rate. It's like, okay, what's causing Juno to have such a high win rate, right? It's like one specific build? Is it a few different builds? Like, is it one item? Is it a combination of this one item with 3 other things? Like, and looking into that. Let's take Juno as an example of how build data feeds into balance changes. Our first balance patch for Juno nerfed one of her powers, Cosmic Coolant, which gave her a shorter cooldown for pulsar torpedoes. Our data shows that Juno's most successful power by win rate is Pulsar Plus, giving Juno an extra charge of her torpedoes, and Cosmic Coolant follows by a small margin. The synergy between these two powers means that many of Juno's builds, by our model's estimation, have both powers as a must pick. True. The dominant build variant, let's call this variant 1, from a usage perspective, takes a trio of powers, Pulsar Plus, Cosmic Coolant, and Medicinal Missiles. A second variant, variant 2, notably takes Pulsar Plus, Cosmic Coolant, and Torpedo Glide. And a final variant takes the usual duo of Pulsar Plus and Cosmic Coolant, but hybridizes by choosing weapon powers such as Stinger or Meta Blaster. The win rates of these 3 variants diverge strongly. Variant 2 leads the way with 55%, followed by Variant 1 with 52%, and Variant 3 with 48%. So very clearly not going all in on like one style of play, like trying to do a little bit of everything is the play. Like if you do a little bit of everything, you get f***ed. If you just go all in on one, you win. The difference in the success rates of these builds give us more specific information about exact balance changes to make. Variant 2, with Torpedo Glide as its standout difference, suggests that the cooldown reduction of pulsar torpedoes enabled by Cosmic Coolant was the main driver of success. By tuning down Cosmic Coolant, other builds have a chance to succeed. I also pulled some additional Stadium stats on May 5th to better illustrate how things changed or didn't change after the May 1st hotfix. Across all platforms, Soldier 76 has been the most played damage hero, and Reinhardt was the most played tank by a decent margin. Juno is still the most picked support, but Mercy and Moira are nipping at her heels. Get it? Thanks to the hotfix patch. For those heroes, certain powers are your clear favorites. Juno's Pulsar Plus has a whopping 78.1% pick rate, while Soldier's Supervisor has a 75.4% pick rate. Even after minor nerfs in the latest balance patch, Reinhardt players are making slightly more diverse builds, either choosing Magma Strike or smashing 32.8% of the time. Holy shit. So Soldier's getting picked almost, 58% of the time? Look at the gap. It's huge. True Soldiers everywhere? That is true. Support looks a little bit more balanced. Tank honestly looks really balanced outside of Ryan. I'm honestly not surprised by any of this, though. If anything, I'm more surprised Reaper's 2 and Cass is 3 instead of Cass being 2, Reaper being 3. That'd be my only surprise. And then over here, Orisa being ahead of Zarya is a little bit surprising, because Zarya's just way better, I think. But also, like, Orisa's just easier to play, so, like, overall, the entire player base, this makes sense. Moira being so high doesn't make... Well, actually, no, it makes sense because Emong apparently made a tier list, a stadium tier list, and people said his Moira ranking was really wrong and were yelling at him about it. And this explains why, because they're all playing Moira and they think it's really, really good, even if it's not that good. Being popular isn't everything, though. Lucio continues to have the highest hero win rate on both PC, 58%, and console, 57%. However, Mei is matching that win rate in higher skill divisions on console until her recent adjustments in stadium balance patches. D.Va had the highest tank win rate on console by a wide margin. Nerfs allowed other tanks to taste success on console, and D.Va is now second place in high skill division. So, you know, pick rate, win rate, not always the same. Ashe, holy shit! No wonder, dude, remember I was playing Ashe earlier and I was like, dude, I feel like I don't do much unless I have Bob up? Holy sub 43% win rate on Ashe? D.Va's down here at sub 43? Holy shit! Lucio's 57% win rate, Ryan's 54, Zarya 52, Reaper 54. You know, I'm honestly not that surprised Reaper's so high. Can you just go all in like tank buster build and you go crazy? All in healing boop build, go crazy. Ana being the lowest isn't that much of a surprise. Juno being second highest, not that surprising. Kiri being this low is a little surprising. Other than that though, I'm not super surprised by this. Except Ashe, that's crazy. It's me, Aaron, again. Thanks, Ben. Okay. We also had an update to share on lever rates in Stadium. Initially, we reported a 7% lever rate, but after some tweaks in how we collected data, we are seeing that lever rate is closer to 12% on PC. This seems to be largely coming from first-time players, with lever rates dropping the more matches one has under their belt. Since Stadium is still so new, we expect the lever rate to drop and settle at a much lower rate in the coming weeks. Yeah, that was what when I first started reading it, that was like my take was I think that people don't know that you're getting punished for leaving, and like leaving is not good. It's not like quick play. You can't just like leave whenever you want, and there won't be backfills. So yeah, this actually makes sense. The philosophy around stadium balance is a bit different from the rest of Overwatch 2. We want you to feel as though you can have MVP moments in a match, riding the cusp of feeling overpowered, while also seeing the mode as something that rewards skill in both combat and armory strategy. While we want players to feel OP at times, we've already started to see some builds that have high burst potential with a relatively low skill floor. We believe that some of these have gone too far and we'll be looking into adjustments for them. Variety is still deeply important for Stadium 2. We want you to feel like your hero's strength grows and morphs in different ways depending on the match. Sometimes you'll be the carry and sometimes you'll take a supporting role. Stadium won't be as delicately balanced as our core competitive modes, but our goal is to keep it casually competitive. Thanks for all the excellent feedback about Stadium, and we hope to keep you on climbing. And we hope you keep on climbing the ranks. As always, let's make a great game. I think that's the correct take right there, right here. Stadium won't be as delicately balanced as our core competitive modes, but our goal is to keep it casually competitive. Casually competitive? Like what? You're confused on like what that means? It means they want the game to feel balanced enough where it's not like, you know, you're basically like, this is just goofy, this is stupid, like why would I take this seriously? Like you should still take it seriously, but not to the point where like, you know, if everyone's not running the most meta build, you're not have everyone counter swapping, building item builds to counter their builds, like you're not like looking at their screen, like, you know, at the end of like each round, you can look at the enemy team and see what they're building into, and you don't look at their go, well, they're building into this. Guys, you need to sell these items and build into this, right? They still want you to take it serious. They still want you to be good, and they still want it to feel competitive, but not like overly sweaty competitive. And it can be a little bit goofy at the same time. There was also this. Blizzard's Overwatch team just unionized. What I want to protect most here is the people. The wall-to-wall union of Blizzard Team 4 includes nearly 200 developers. For those who don't know, Team 4 is the internal code name for the Overwatch team. The Overwatch 2 team at Blizzard has unionized. That includes nearly 200 developers across disciplines ranging from art and testing to engineering and design. Basically, anyone who doesn't have someone else reporting to them It's the second wall-to-wall union at the storied games maker since the World of Warcraft team unionized last July. Game developers behind Activision Blizzard's hit franchise Overwatch have joined the Communication Workers of America, CWA, becoming the latest group of video game workers at Microsoft-owned studios to form a wall-to-wall union. The CWA announced in a press release shared with Kotaku on Friday. A neutral arbitrator confirmed today that an overwhelming majority of workers have either signed a union authorization card or indicated that they wanted union representation in it via an online portal. The Overwatch Game Makers Guild, CWA, is just the latest group to organize at a Microsoft-owned game studio since the tech giant entered into a labor neutrality agreement. The policy shift took frustrations that bubbled up with management back in 2021 and funneled them into an objective with assurances that company leaders wouldn't interfere. Like unions at Bethesda Game Studios and Raven Software, the Overwatch Game Makers Guild now has to bargain for its first contract, a process that Microsoft has been accused of slow walking as negotiations with other internal game unions drag on for years. Yeah, that's going to be a big problem. I might be stupid. What is unionization? Unionization is basically the practice of an entire group of workers saying, we are going to always stick together. And so what they're aiming for is like you protect your fellow man by being like, hey, you know what? You're going to go after that guy, then you have to go after all of us. Good examples of that is fighting for pay or equal pay or like pay as a group, right? You have collective bargaining power. And so let's say you make $10 an hour somewhere and you unionize and you're like, hey guys, like we are worth more than $10 an hour, like much more than that. Like the competitor across the street gets 15 an hour, right? Like we should get at least 15 an hour. And then you can go to the table, be like, hey, we want 15 an hour. Boss says no. Well, you guys all walk out, right? You go, nah, we're going to all walk out together. And so the business can't function if nobody's working there, right? Like, what are they going to do? And so it puts power in the hands of the people, because a lot of these companies that make millions or billions of dollars, right? They only operate because of the people who work in them and inside them. But unfortunately, today, a lot of money goes to either C-suite level executives or to shareholders. Not saying that those things aren't also important, but like real talk, like let's say Overwatch, for example. Let's say Overwatch brings in $100 million a year, right? I don't think that Overwatch team is getting anywhere close, even as a collective, to 100,000 or 100 million a year. And they're the people who are actually putting in the work to making the products. So when you unionize, you protect each other. So like, let's say you have a coworker that's having a baby and they're like, hey, they want to get, 2 months off for maternity leave, right? There's a lot of companies that might just say, no, we'll replace you, right? Like you can't take maternity leave, we'll replace you, you get a week. When you collectively together bargain, that's something you can bargain for and stand by them. But also, like that can be grounds for the entire group going, no, like you can't throw this person under the bus and say like, yeah, like we'll just fire them because they're protected by the union. And so the union can say, well, if you fire this person, we'll just stop working for you. Like you can't do that. Like they matter as a human, right? Because it's scary as a person to go up against a massive company that just says we can replace you tomorrow, right? And so by being a part of a union and being like as a group, they can't target that one person and snipe them out because you're a much bigger group together. Does that make sense? So let's continue. The biggest issue was the layoffs at the beginning of 2024. Simon Hendrick, a test analyst at Blizzard, told Kotaku, Up to that moment, I've been really happy at what I was doing. He began as a longtime fan of World of Warcraft and started playing Overwatch from day one in 2016. In 2022, he was hired to work at Blizzard on quality assurance for the sequels versus mode and matchmaking. Hendrick has had up to 8 game clients running simultaneously to test for issues and keeps a corgi plush, a mascot of Irvine's campus #BlizzLife, by his work desk. On Thursday, he meets with colleagues in Blizzard's Irvine campus library to play Magic the Gathering. When I asked him what he loves most about working here, his answer was the same as everyone else's: the people. That's true. At least in my experience working with anyone on the Overwatch team, is like it's mostly passionate people who like either were fans or currently fans of the game. To take it one step further, to my knowledge, I'm like mostly sure this is still true. They get paid less than other studios by a good amount. And the way they would get made up for that every year was they would get a bonus based on how good their game does. And if you look last year, was it last year or the year before? I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I think it was like right before Kotick went out the door. He canceled all of the bonuses for the Overwatch team, citing that they didn't make enough money. It was like right before he left. So I think it was a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, technically. But they all like each other and they like the game that they're working on. That's like the number one thing. It's more passion. When nearly 2,000 layoffs swept through Microsoft last year, including at Blizzard, where a new game was canceled and several members of the Overwatch team were cut, in a wake-up call for Hedrick, people were gone out of nowhere and there was nothing we could do about it, he said. What I want to protect most is the people. Here is the people. That's also really important, and you should really think that's important because I can tell you some of the biggest hiccups Overwatch has had. One of those times is March of 2023, is because mass layoffs or big rollovers. Like if you've ever had, like anytime we've had a big stagnation period for Overwatch, like sucking balls, it was typically because a bunch of people got fired or a bunch of people left. And so they had to bring in new people. And so they weren't like trained yet, or they didn't understand the vision yet, or they weren't all aligned. So it just felt like it was all over the place. And I can think of 3 instances that are like, this one moment set us back like a year. And the March 2023 one was a big one. That was like the last big one, which is why now here we are in 2025 and now things feel pretty good, is because we've gone about 2 years without having a big one. Like there was a small one last year, which obviously wasn't good, but you get what I'm saying. The post-merger shockwave, Microsoft had officially wrapped its acquisition of Activision Blizzard only months earlier, was one catalyst for the organizing effort at Blizzard's Team 4, which was originally formed in the late 2000s to create the company's planned MMO Titan. Before the troubled project eventually morphed into Overwatch, Foster Elmendorf, a senior test analyst, was at Blizzard for all of it after joining the company back in 2004, a dream job he secured simply by applying online at the time. He said other big drivers pushing the Overwatch team to unionize included pay disparities, work from home restrictions. Hey, if you've been here a long time, you remember when I talked about that one. And wanting codified protections around things like crunch, time off, and severance in the events of layoffs. Organizing Blizzard employees stress that improving their working conditions can also lead to better games, while the opposite, layoffs, forced resignations, and uncompetitive pay can make them worse. I said most of that before I even clicked the continue reading button. A lot of truth to that. Overwatch 2 staff were particularly upset last spring when the changes to the company's profit sharing program left them with 0 bonuses for an entire year. Pre-read? It's not pre-read. I'm like a fucking encyclopedia with all of this, okay? I've read all this shit for years. If concessions are given without organization, they can be taken away without it too. Oh. If concessions are given without organizing, they can be taken away without it too. He currently helps oversee testing for in-game cosmetics from the concept phase through implementation. He loves making games and wants developers to have a seat at the table, not just to protect their own interests, but to make the games better, to prioritize fun and not just profit. For a long time, I felt the video game industry needed more organizing, he told Kotaku. He later added, it's been 20 years of asking for better pay, and it still hasn't happened yet. 2025 is an important year for Overwatch 2. Despite ditching much of its promised PvE content, the hero shooter rolled out some big swing design initiatives, including a new mode called Stadium that incorporates MOBA elements like mid-match upgrades, and Season 16 is currently underway, and the team just announced a Street Fighter 6 collaboration, but all but transforms existing characters into Capcom fighters like Ryu and Chun-Li. The efforts to unionize the Overwatch team haven't just led by quality assurance testers. Other disciplines were also involved. UI artist Sadie Boyd became part of the push immediately after joining Blizzard last September. Just another round of layoffs were sweeping through Microsoft. She said someone posted a link to sign a union card in one of the Blizzard Slack channels, which she did immediately. After all, she'd already been a part of a union drive at Prey and Redfall maker Arcane Austin before it had been shut down by Microsoft earlier in the year. We're not just a number on an Excel sheet, Boyd said. We want to make games, but we can't do it without a sense of security. Unionizing doesn't make a studio immune to layoffs or being shuttered, but it's the first step towards making companies have a discussion around those things, about those things with the employees rather than just shadow dropping them in an email full of platitudes. Boyd sees the Overwatch union as a tool for negotiating a range of issues, like how generative AI is used at Blizzard, as well as possible sources of inspiration to teams at other studios. Our industry is at such a turning point, she said. I really think with the announcement of our union on Overwatch, I know that will light some fires. No shit. That's actually really good for them. Happy for them. Hopefully they're able to use that collective bargaining power to fight for things that are good for the game. Overwatch has been plagued with it for years. And I mean, don't get me wrong, right now they're definitely on the right track. And I think there's some big swing things they would have to go for, like if you were talking about like improve the game's image outside of just the Overwatch scene, right? I don't know if that's something that a union can even do. For example, bring back cinematics, talk about potentially doing some type of special, Netflix special or anime type of thing. That's like big picture. I don't know if that's something that this would have anything to do with, but I could see where this could have impact on something like, for example, which character gets skins, right? How fast content gets put out. Should more people be brought in, right? Like, let's say there's like people that are kind of overworked because they're sharing multiple projects within the same team. Should that be a job for 2 people instead of 1 person, right? There's a lot of potential good out of this. So, hey, happy for him. Hopefully, we get to see some of that good soon. So, cool.